Hello, Kristin, and thank you so much for joining me on A Curious Coach today. I'm very excited to learn about your story and to see what little golden nuggets you are going to give us to inspire, and just to listen to your story in general will naturally inspire me. So welcome. I'm going to pass it over to you to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your personal journey that led you to where you are today.
Hi, Sarah-Jayne, and good morning. I know for you it's afternoon. I'll tell you, so I am a coach for kids, and I work with, and I call them kids. For me, they're kids. It's 16 to 23-year-olds, and I help them figure out a career path. And what led me to this, it's not a really long story, but I am going to I'll tone it down a little bit. I worked in corporate America for 25 plus years and closed down a couple companies. The last place I was at, I was miserable. And I know a lot of people go through that journey in corporate America. So they probably are nodding their head going, yep, been there. And the best news is I was running marketing departments. My boss came into me and basically said, and he was a new CEO that came to the company. He decided to bring his own people in, which marketing's always the first to go. I'd already started packing up my stuff, right? Smiled the entire way home. I was so relieved and happy that he booted me because I wasn't taking action for myself. And I went through kind of a journey going, okay, I've done this corporate gig, I've done the marketing thing. What is it I truly want to do? And through that journey, I met a lady that introduced me to Clifton Strengths. And she was like, hey, have you ever heard of this thing? I was like, no, but I love this stuff. In my head, I was like, Myers-Briggs, are you blue, a green, a purple, all those things. I'm like, it's always fun to learn about me. So I took this assessment, and I got to tell you, Sarah-Jayne, it really hit home. It changed my life is kind of a big thing to say. I wouldn't tell you it changed my life, but man, it hit me to my core in that it explained me so well that I just went, wow, who else needs to know about this? And I can talk a little bit more about Clifton Strengths later. But when I thought about who needed to know about this and how I could help somebody else, I kept going kind of back in time to my first jobs, to, all the things that I'd gone through in corporate. And I was like, you know what, really where this would help is people that are just starting out their career life. And why not go after that high school and college student and help them really understand who they are before they make all these lifelong decisions?
That is so cool to hear. And there's something to be curious about actually as you're talking. And you spoke of when you were in corporate, when you left the job or got told you had to leave, but you left with a big smile. What was the point in that snippet of you being told that you had to leave corporate, to you being really happy that actually he gave you the kick that you needed because you knew you weren't happy? But what was that moment that made you go, actually, this is a really good move? I have no idea where I want to go, but yes, this is the push that I do need. Because a lot of people listening will go, oh, but you lost your job. That's terrifying. So could you just go a little bit deeper for us around that snippet of a big journey that you went on?
Absolutely. So it's always scary to lose a job. And I don't care who you are, it still hurts to get the boot, right? No matter what the circumstances are, your ego takes a bruise. So let's just not pass that up. And I was hurt. However, I knew I'd been miserable for a long time. I knew I had this yearning and this something inside going, things aren't quite right. So, to have somebody else help push you and make that decision, I think is, it's helpful. Sometimes you need it. And I think too, I'm a faith-based person. However, I'm not like truly like, God did this, he, forced me. But I got to tell you, I do think there was probably some divine intervention just to go, oh my gosh, I've given you all the signs, get out. What the heck are you waiting on, right?
Yeah.
And okay, let's face it, in corporate America, a lot of us get fat, dumb, and happy. You're making good money, you're doing your deal. It's the devil you know. And to take that leap is tough. So, somebody pushing you sometimes is not a bad thing.
Yeah, well, you can sense that. And as you were saying, your story there from being told, right, you've got to leave, that was actually the message that the universe, the divine, whatever you like to call that energy, he asked you, she asked you, they asked you to walk away. And you started doing some soul searching by the sound of it, by doing different exercises to really understand who you are. Tell us a little bit more. So you find like, oh, hang on a moment, I know who Kristin is now. I've done some soul searching. Tell us a little bit more about that next bit of your journey.
Yeah. So, I told you that I'm working with students and how I got back there. But the story that I really, or the moment that I really remember is I was standing on campus. I was probably a freshman, maybe sophomore year, and I was an art major. And, now a lot of parents would go, art, what are you going to do with that? As a parent, you're like, not that. But quite honestly, I think it was really the right thing for me to do at the time. I think I made a good decision in that. But I was standing on campus and I was looking at, back then we had books. I know I'm dating myself, but I was looking at the books of all the classes. And one of the classes that came up was interior design. And I was like, what idiot takes that class? And I just kind of remember time standing still around me. And everything was moving. And I was just in a moment of, I think I should be doing something with this. And I closed the book, put it in my backpack, and I moved on, and I never thought about it again. And I was like, if I would have had somebody at that point to go to say, tell me more about this. What is it about? I really feel like, and knowing my strengths now, that I would be designing interior corporate buildings. I really feel like that would have been my calling. And that's why I look at these young people, I'm like, you need people around you cheering you on and giving you those little moments of, yes, you can. And if it looks interesting, let's explore it. Don't just close the book and put it in your backpack. Let's make sure that you're thinking about these things, because you've got a whole life, 40, 50, 60 years to work. Let's make sure it's the best opportunity that you could ever shoot for, right? That you just love what you do.
That's really beautiful to listen to. And, on a personal note, I've done a lot of work with young people. So I strongly relate to what you're saying is, if at that younger age, someone just held that space for you and acted curious, tell us a little bit more. Where did it lead you? So I suppose in terms of reflecting it onto you and being that glimmer of hope that you needed, did you have someone that was like, right, Kristin, you've been on this journey. You're not the teenager or the young person or the baby that you're supporting, but you've gone through these amazing journeys of experiences in different careers. Did you have someone supporting you, or did you really have to go inwards? Because I think, again, there's a lot of adults who sit there and go, well, I've still got a few years to go. I want to change things up, but I don't even know where to turn. So yeah, just a little on your personal journey. Did you have someone that supported you, or did you have to really go inwards at the start to reconnect with that inner child, so to say, that young person that once held that book of, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I will tell you, it was an inner journey, because I come from the Midwest, and so up in Iowa, the middle of the country in the United States, and I wasn't around a lot of people that were risk takers. And even in my home life, with my husband and my kids, number one, my kids were all involved in their own stuff, which is normal. They were teenagers at the time. But my husband's not a big risk taker. So for me to take this leap and say, I'm going to start this company and I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to help kids, it was a big leap. The nice thing is, when you get out into the non-corporate world, there are a lot of really great networking groups of other people that are on this journey. So that was a huge help. I don't know that I recognized it when it was happening, because it's, you're still dealing with some fear, but some excitement as well. But to see other people living this journey was hugely helpful. And then to be able to tap into that and to really have some of those deeper conversations about it made a big difference. And I got to tell you, I keep going back. The Clifton Strengths program really helped me take that leap, because I was so excited about it and so interested and intrigued by what it did for me, that I was like, I can't not share this.
And I think that would naturally go on to, what have been your biggest successes and your biggest barriers, because I get a real sense that that was a life-changing moment for you and took you on this path and this incredible journey that you're sharing in supporting young people, giving them what you needed at that moment in time yourself. So do you want to share a little bit more about those successes and those barriers and those aha moments of, wow, you get me, I've found something that just understands who I am?
Yes. In fact, so the lady that introduced me to strengths, it was funny. I had to go back, I had to take the assessment, and then we met again the week later, and she looked at my result and she went, oh, really? And I was like, no, wait a minute. This is supposed to be fun. Really? What are you seeing? She said, you scare people, don't you? And I was like, oh, I do. And I have no idea why. And she's like, well, let me tell you. And she went on to explain that, and the short snippet is basically, I'm high in a ranger, which means when you come to me with a thought, an idea, my brain is going to the next steps, very quickly, like without really thinking all that hard. So she's like, here's the deal, Kristin, you're on page like 7 or 8 with your arranger. And she said, your second strength is you're an activator, which means you get people to start moving forward. So she said, you're on page 8 and you're going, okay, let's go. And everybody else is going, I don't even know what we're doing. How do you get there? And you sound so, firm and you know what you're doing. So, okay, I'll do it. And she said, and that's scary. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I do. So it was, even in those 2 minutes that she told me about my first 2 strengths, so many aha moments started popping up that I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to tell me more. Right. And when you talk about successes, I look at some of these students that I've talked to, and I got to tell you, Sarah-Jayne, the coolest part about this is when we're talking, they literally, you can see them do this where they grow 2 inches and they're like, I am good at that. We all want to know that we're good at stuff. And for them to like have that deep realization like I did, to go, yes, that is me and I am good at this. What a gift, to give to kids.
Yeah. I'm sitting there again. I'm sitting here on the other side of the screen, the pond, so to say, and it's so lovely to, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, see how animated you become. One, you're so proud of the journey you've personally been on, and you really, it's like you've connected with yourself fully. Well, that's the sense I'm getting, and it's really nice to see that energy come through. But then to hear you speak about the young people you work with, and it is when you suddenly see them go, wow, okay, I'm good, I am a good person, I am good at what I do. You can't beat that feeling. And so thank you so much for sharing that.
When I see the success of these kids, and I know that they would not have gotten there without somebody that really was encouraging them and asking them the hard questions. It's funny, and this goes back to my strengths. I've always heard this in corporate where I'm not afraid to ask the hard questions, to go, why are we still doing it this way? Even in front of the president of the company that's going, we're going to do it this way. And I'm like, why are we still doing it this way? And asking those questions. And, I'm able to do that in a way that people are responsive to it, where even if they don't agree, they can express that, but at least more people understand, right? So even for these kids, either whether I'm on a one-on-one or in a group, for them to, you see them, they just stop and they're like, well, you know what? I don't know. Let me think about that, right? So getting that satisfaction of just seeing them stop, just stop. You know this, you've seen this in coaching, right? Where they go, I guess I don't know. I've just been doing it because we've always done it this way. I've always done it this way. My mom and dad have said, this is what happens next. You're going to college. And I'm like, are you? Is it the right step for you? right? And just to start those conversations, and then to be able to also transfer that to mom and dad and go, this is how they're built. This is what they're longing to do. Really? Do they need to go to college? You know? So I personally get a ton of satisfaction with disrupting, and asking the hard questions.
And I think that's where I was going. And I love the word that you've just used, disrupting. I love the fact that your success, and when you can describe yourself as, I'm Kristin and I am good at disrupting and asking those tough questions and actually questioning, is that real? That's what I wanted to hear. And that just sends excitement through my body, because we try and go round the edges so much to try and fit into what we believe should be real. To hear you say that your aim and your mission with these young people, or anyone you come into path with, is to disrupt their thinking, that's so powerful. That is really powerful. So thank you. And I was curious to see where else it went. So thank you very much for that. So again, your barriers, would you say your barriers has mainly been around not understanding or not really connecting with yourself, or would you say there have been greater barriers on your journey?
Yeah, so my biggest barrier, truthfully, is myself. I'm going back to strengths again on you. One of my top strengths is called significance. And with significance, people that are high in this have a need for feedback. Like, it's total narcissistic. We are like, what did you think? How did it go? So you're always looking for that outside information coming in. And I've gotten to a point where I just ask for it now, because I know it's so important for me. It's almost like this huge craving, right? And what that also means is, when people have an opinion of something you're doing, you have to be strong enough to go, you can have that opinion and that's okay, but it's the right thing to do, right? So that, I got to tell you, is the biggest barrier that I feel like I run into, is being okay with people around me not being happy or approving of certain things that I do. Significance is a wonderful strength too. So I want to take you to that side of it. It's also something that, by hearing that input from people, you actually strive to be better. You strive to go, let me listen to what they're saying and let me take the good nuggets out of it. First, you kind of take that ping of, ooh, that hurt. Sometimes it's good, but when they have bad stuff to tell you, but you take that bad and you make it better. You go, okay, if I'm not doing the best that I can possibly do, let me take it up a notch. Let me make this adjustment. So it's really a great way for people to excel as well. But it's also, it's tough sometimes.
Yeah. And on behalf of the audience and myself, really, actually, when knowing that is your barrier, knowing that when you get that feedback, that awkward, here go, Kristin, look, this is our thoughts. How do you manage that? That's my question. You that feedback comes in, and from what I understand, you invite that feedback because you know that that's what helps you strive and move forward and grow. But how do you manage it when it gets uncomfortable? Have you got certain skills that you use to go, oh, okay, that got me, that was painful, but we can get through this?
Yes. In fact, that's really the whole premise of strengths, okay, the Clifton strengths. And I know I've talked about this, so I should probably tell people what it truly is. So we are all born with talent. And the Clifton Strengths Report is, I'm going to back up. I'm going to tell you about Don Clifton, the guy that came up with this program. So Don Clifton, back in the 50s, went to college and decided that he was going to study psychology. Okay. And he was listening to all the great psychologists and what they were saying. And he took his hand up one day and talked to the professor, and he goes, all of these psychologists are trying to fix people. They're trying to fix their weaknesses. And he said, what would happen if we looked at what was good about people, what their strengths were? And he really was the godfather of this strengths-based psychology, where it's like, why would you not celebrate what you're good at? Because when you're acting within these things that you're talented in, they actually energize you and they make you happy, right? And I just love when I first heard that he had asked that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Why are we trying to fix people? There's so many good things about people, and to give people that kind of that, wow, look at all these great things and just roll around in the mud in those and just have fun and do what you do well. Because the second part of that is you've got people around you that do things well that you don't do. And why not honor them for the things that they're great at? And by the way, then you don't have to do them. One of the things that I know that I totally screwed up, Sarah-Jayne, when I was in corporate America, and the reason I was miserable those last few years of my work is when I got promoted into my VP positions, I decided I needed to be this great strategic mastermind. Guess what? I'm not. Yeah, it's totally not who I am. And, but you think VP, I've got to be strategic. I've got to do these things that a VP does. And that wasn't what brought me to the party. What brought me to the party is I was able to very easily get a lot of people to get stuff done quickly and to enjoy themselves while they did that. That's what I do well. And it's funny, the people around me, when I had great bosses, people that I really loved working for, they totally understood my strengths without knowing, the Clifton strengths. I don't know that they could have put it in words, but they put me in the right places to really shine. When I was in charge of myself, I messed it all up, and, but it was really cool understanding that. One last thing I'll tell you, and I'll give you a chance to jump in, is when I got my full Clifton Strengths report, and I understood that most of the strategic thinking elements were towards the bottom of my list, it was almost this huge monkey off my back, because I was like, you know what? I'm not good at it. And that's okay, because I know a lot of people that are, right? So yeah, that's kind of the story on the Clifton Strengths.
That's really beautiful, and I like how you use the idea of the monkey suddenly coming off your back and like that weight lifted off your shoulders, so to say. And I think that will resonate with so many people that are going to be listening and are listening to this. And I suppose with this, you've got your successes, and I learned something new recently, that barriers actually are there to protect you, and the idea is to learn about them and how you break through them. And that, listening to you, that appears to be what your journey's been about, that kind of, hang on a moment, there's this realization that I don't need to know everything, that I have got this support network, that it's okay that I don't have my strengths in this particular area of thinking or working. I now can really work my magic in my real strengths, what my personality enables me to do. If you could give a message to the world, to the audience who are sitting there going, great, okay, I've been in this job that I don't really get excited about waking up to. I feel like I'm chasing my tail every time I walk in. I'm always called into the boss's office because I'm not quite achieving my tasks. That feeling of failure or not being good enough. Deep down, you can achieve so much more. And I really get this sense from you that you suddenly know what your shining light is. What message would you give to the audience?
Yeah, sometimes I will tell you, Sarah-Jayne, that it's not necessarily that you're not performing. It's maybe that you're being asked to do the wrong types of things. Just like I thought I needed to be strategic, right? Had I understood myself better, I probably could have gone to my boss and go, you know what? That's not where I shine, but here's where I do shine. And being able to have that language, I think, is hugely powerful. Or, by the way, in that situation, I could have easily reached out and hired a business coach and said, help me through this, right? I was making enough money, I could have hired a business coach, but did I think of that? I didn't think of that, So I think for people, it's like sometimes it's just a nudge or a minor change in what you're doing. I could have thrived in that position. I absolutely could have, had I understood why I was so unhappy. And I think that's the biggest thing is I know I've felt that feeling you talked about where people are like, I'm failing and I know I'm a good person. I know I'm good at stuff because I've gotten promoted and people keep giving me extra money. I was like, what is wrong with me now? There's something wrong and I can't figure it out. And I'm not saying the Clifton Strengths is the only way to get there, but it definitely can help, to kind of give you some of those aha moments and go, am I truly every day working within my strengths? And that's truly the goal. It's how do you raise your hand and ask for those things that you do well every day, and to be able to communicate that in a way that's not threatening. It's more, hey boss, listen, you know what? I know you asked me to do this. I will do it for you any day of the week. If you really want me to shine, that project over there, that's for me. And let me tell you why. I'm really good at da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? The other thing I think it does is it helps you walk into even an interview and to say, here's what I'm really good at. Because what's going to happen there is they're going to look at you and go, oh, I've got projects like that. That's where I'm going to put this person. That when you're in an interview, well, on the other side, I will tell you, having done a lot of interviews, a lot of times you kind of think you know what you want. You've got this thought in your mind, but man, when they tell you something like that, you can change what a position does on the fly. I mean, you're the boss, you get to do it. So anyway, I just think it's so powerful in being able to really ask for those things that you do well. And by the way, I'm going to go back to, they energize you and they make you happy when you're doing them. So why would you not ask that?
Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, and I get all excited when I talk about that. So did I actually answer your question?
You did. And I think I know that listening to you, I'm taking away is the power of getting to know yourself and owning your true self, and that going out and getting guidance, whether that's Clifton Strength or whether that's through a coach or whatever method you feel fits and suits you, research on the internet, whatever it may be, the power of understanding who you are gives you, because I have this awkwardness around interviews. So as you're sitting there and I'm like, oh my goodness, you want me to go into an interview and say, this is my strength, or go up to my boss and tell them, you want to see me shine? But as I've learned about myself, actually, when you have that confidence and you know yourself internally, you haven't got that fear anymore, because you know that what you're about to say and what you're about to share is 100% true to who you are. So it's interesting that you shared that idea, because I'm sitting there going, I'm that fearful person telling people what I'm strong at, but I also know that the power of knowing myself encourages me to do those actions. Does that make sense?
Well, it completely makes sense. And I agree with you. Now, all of a sudden, you're walking in there with this confidence to say, because the confidence might also mean this isn't the right job for me.
Oh, hang on a moment.
Then this.
Can you just say that bit again? Because it just paused. So action, go.
Yeah, that you can now also make a decision for yourself and walk into an interview and go, this isn't the right job for me. I'm out, right? So it kind of gives you that confidence to also say, I want to be in a place that's going to be able to use my talents and use my strengths, and that I get to do what I love to do every day.
Beautiful. That is just incredibly powerful. And I know that there are going to be many, many people that will take a lot of takeaways from this call today. So I just want to let everyone know that you can contact Kristin. All her contact details are in the comment box below. Also, I'll get her to share the Clifton Strengths, because I think there is power behind. We've seen how much it has ignited and reignited Kristin's passion. So let's embrace this journey with her. Thank you so much, Kristin, for coming on board and joining me on A Curious Coach. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Sarah-Jayne.